Hey everyone, I'm your Jivendra Kumar from Entrepreneurial Shenanigans. As we all know, I'm discussing about business related topics that in business fields, the potential of business or the business related topics. So I'm here today to discuss about the potential of startups and entrepreneurial in Malaysia. So, my goals today for this podcast is to generate ideas for business and the growth in entrepreneurial in Malaysia. So, where do I start? So, I need to start from defining the startups, elements, and entrepreneurship in Malaysia. The term startups refer to a company in a first stage of operation. Startups are focused by one or more entrepreneurs who want to develop a product or service for which they believe there is a demand. Startups are companies or ventures that are focused on a single product that the founders want to bring to market. On understanding startups, startup can use seed capital to invest in research and to develop their business plans and the potential of businesses. More than focus on one startup company, I want to bring revolution or revolutionary to the old startup campaign or the startup concept. So the startup concept is mainly focused about on doing the startups companies or the startups method that we need to do in the business field. So we need to ensure the potential of startups. So before we ensure the potential, what we do to open or venture into the startup capitalist. So first of all, we need to think about the location. When we say location can make or break any business and is often one of the most important consideration for anyone starting up in the business world. Startups must decide whether the business is conducted online, in an office or home office, or in a home. So the location depends on the product or service being offered. For example, a technology startup selling virtually reality hardware may need a physical storefront to give customers a face-to-face demonstration of the product. Is very complex features. The second element of doing a startup is legal structures or legal structure. So startups need to consider what legal structure best fit for their entity. A sole proprietorship is suited for a founder who is also the key employee of the business. Partnerships are very viable legal structure for a business that consists of several people who have joint ownership and they are fairly straightforward to establish. Personal liability can reduce by regularity a startup as a limited company. The third thing that I'm consider is important for doing a startup is funding. So we need funding for startup. When we say potential of startup, before we reaching the potential, we need the funding. So where the funding is started? Funding is started. Startups are often raise funds by turning to families and friends or by the close related one with the venture capitalist. This group of professional and they are also a specialist group for funding startups. Other than that, crowdfunding has become a noble way for many people to get access to the cash they need to move forward in the business process. The entrepreneur set up crowdfunding page online allowing people who believe in the company to allocate money or donate money for them to start up the company. So startups are ready to commence the operation. A perfect credit history may allow the startup to have a line of credit of as funding. This option comes the most risk, particularly if the startup is successful. Other companies choose small loan to help the startups. Bank typically have the specialization of giving small loan for small businesses. It's called a micro loan. It's a short-term loan with low interest product tailor made for startups. A detailed business plan is often needed or required in order to the quality of startups. On discussing the potential and how we can do our startups by collecting or crowdfunding, or how we can start the basic funds of startups, we have been discussing throughout the session. Um so I'm gonna tell you all how startup can work in the future, and how startup can look in the future, of how the functionable of startup can be worked to the all entrepreneurs. So startup landscape in Malaysia. So when I'm saying startup Malaysia, what is startup Malaysia? So startup Malaysia is defining startup Malaysia startup ecosystem real map. So it called superb. It The campaign is started on 2021 to 2030. The country has a goal to generate 5,000 startups, including 5 with unicorn status by 2050. The rise of these startups is the further fueled by by the country's strong economics, fundamental, growing and diverse middle class. A massive increase in the purchasing power of consumer along with the burgeoning technology landscape. So when I'm saying the super technology or the goal or the landscape in the future, it may work for many of the entrepreneurs that has the potential of doing a startups in the future. So when we looking about one of the bank who have been given funding for the startups, so it called HSBC Bank. HSBC Bank supporting the new economic startups across the region with dedicated funds, technology angle solution and expertise. This means new or young entrepreneurs can take up this opportunity to be doing a startups in their career. So when I'm saying a bank is want to give us funds, so they believe in this field or in this market of startups, they can reach potential, maybe not very soon, but they can reach the potential in the future. So when we say funding is very important in startups. So as we say, banks, public loans, small loans, each of these loans or methods, the basic needs is we need understanding how we approach our business and how we should work and minimalize and decoding our business venture, our planning, our potential, our finance method, our marketing method in the business field. So when we discussing about this, I'm also want to discuss about other side of the startups. On the other side, I want to discuss about the advantages and disadvantages of startups. There are variety of advantage to working for a startup. As startups have fewer employees than large established companies, employees tend to wear many hats, working in a variety of roles, which leads to more responsibility as well as opportunity to learn. Startups tend to be more relaxed in nature, making the workplace more of communal experience with flexible hours, increased employee interaction and flexibilities. Startups have been better workplace benefits such as nutritional for children, free foods and short work hours. Primary disadvantages of startup. New business need to prove themselves and raise capital before they can start turning a profit. Keeping investors happy with the startup progress is critical. The risk of shutting down or not moving enough capital to continue operation before turning a profit is ever present. Competition is very critical for startups at the starting point. From speaking about the disadvantages, now we can move to the unique characteristic of startups. So when we say unique characteristic, not all new companies are considered startups. Companies that have limited growth potential in terms of their customer risk, revenue, and product are hard see a startup. Although there is no single standard for what define a startup company, the best community recognizes there is a special class of young companies and a particular work culture that exists with startups. The startup culture can also be considered as egalitarian with workers at all levels pulling together. This workplace frequently reinforce the views with open areas where leader and staff are at work side by side. However, the founders and their chosen executive are often as an ambassador for the product and company they are building. Now I discuss about the perception of startups. Startups are often molded for their potential to disrupt industry and introduce and product to the market as well as for the further innovation spirit. They can have a mythical hold on the American imagination. And for now, I'm about to discuss the types of startups. So, firstly, scalable startup entrepreneurs have the potential for the fast growth and capacity to exponential increase their business. Firms are designed about cutting edges business ideas, goods or services that have the potential to win a sizable portion of a market. Scalability is a startup's capacity to meet growing demand without experiencing corresponding increase in the market. The second types of startup is lifestyle startups. Lifestyle startups are ventures that prioritize the personal goals and work-life balance that offer entrepreneur. These startups are built around the idea of aligning and work with the desire, allowing individuals to pursue the passion or hobbies while running a business. The focus of lifestyle startups is rapid growth or massive scaling, but rather creating a business that supports the entrepreneur desire lifestyles and personal fulfillment. These startups often operate on a smaller scale, catering to niche markets or specific culture systems or segments. Now I'm gonna discuss about the main part or the important or the crucial part that all the startups, companies or the young entrepreneurs need to take listen of this one, which is tips for entrepreneurial success, that is embrace failure, learn from your mistakes and use them as opportunity for growth and improvement. The second tips for entrepreneurial success is be adaptable, stay open to change and willing to your business model or strategy needed. And the third important tips is focus on your strength, leverage your skill and expertise to excel in areas where you have a competitive advantages to succeed in your field. Now I have been mentioned some of the reason why they want to start the startups in the early stages, or the young entrepreneurs want to start do the startups. So the main reason it should be choose the right people. When you choose to do startup, remember to choose people whom you trust wisely. You will need some employees and a manager to run a company. The number of workers depends on the industry you are in and how big your business is. Based on statistics, startups are small companies that have small teams. In general, startup consists of up to 10 employees. Another big reason is develop a business plan. Having an idea isn't enough since the process also requires a business plan. A business plan is a document that contains a company's objectives and ways to achieve its goal. It also includes a description of the business future and outline of business strategy. Statistics shows that people with a plan succeeded in obtaining investment capital and growing in their startups. When you are focusing on starting a startup or requiring to do a startup, you need a clear business plan to how you process your startup in early stages. So when you are growing as a highly successful startup, you need to change your business plan more effectively and working on a better improvement or better implementation of growing more into a better startup company. And the final reason why we need to focus the potential of startups and the reason for the base is create your customer base. After developing a site, growing your digital presence and becoming a good marketer, it's time to build a customer base. Create an environment website to provide your consumer with a seamless experience and encourage them to come back. To get repeat customers, you need to provide high quality products and excellent customer service. Your client must be your first priority, so treat them accordingly so that you can have a regular customer in your business. And for the conclusion of our podcast is called bottom line part of term. Innovation, success and practice are some of the common goals for many entrepreneurs. Those are individuals who have identity what is missing in the market and decide to develop the idea to fulfill these gaps. Along with serving their one needs, the spirit of entrepreneur is what helps them be a successful entrepreneur. And other than that, our world is very changing quickly, and innovation and new ideas come to replace the previous one. Startups are a result of bringing new ideas to life as they can change people's life, solve their problems and simplify their daily routines. So when we focus on startup can bring a new revolution in our life, and it can bring the light at the end of the tunnel that have young entrepreneur to motivate in their life when they have low motivation in their field of business. So before ending our podcast, I really want to mention a wise saying about the entrepreneurship or the startups. When Paul Graham said to make something you can sell to a big market. Meanwhile, Donald Trump said the quote of sometimes your best investment are the ones you don't make it. So which means you don't be too scared or worry about these startups, because when we all starting thinking about a business plan, we need to think about a potential of the business in the future and we can work for the future. So startups are really needed in the future, and the potential of startups and entrepreneurial in Malaysia are very fast growing and very rapid growing in the future. I hope everyone will listen to my podcast and enjoying their times of being out to relate the business in their lives. That's all. Thank you for listening my podcast to all the audience.